Well, I think the point about Meyerowitz is that you're not going to get anybody like this in the legal profession. Certainly not in my lifetime, and I suspect not for a very long time to come, if at all. I mean, you're talking about a very unique human being. Because if you work it out, I'm not talking about all the communal stuff, which doubtless will be dealt with separately. But if you look at Meyerowitz, the lawyer, I mean, he produces these books all on his own. Right? Now we have to have teams to do the same thing, and we're not nearly as up to date as he was, which I'm no doubt he'll be screaming from wherever he is, saying, "I told you so." Then, secondly, he's the leading tax silk in the country, so he's got a busy practice, and then he's got everything else that goes on at the same time. How on earth this all occurs, I have not the slightest idea. A man gets to 90 years old, and I know when I'm asked to advise, who would you go to consult about a tax question, you'd go to Meyerowitz. At 90, I can't quite remember, it was around about 90, he retires from here, from Huguenot Chambers. And it's unique because why would you think that after such a long time there was nobody who was comparable in this particular area? Well, that's the uniqueness of the man. I don't think in any area of law has somebody dominated for so long, all on his own, without research assistance, without any legal team, with Mrs. Eager, who was long suffering over a very long period of time, having to put up with all of his almost anal, compulsive obsessions at getting it absolutely right, and she did that wonderfully, and him. And you're talking about an extraordinarily brilliant career over a very long period of time. It's not the only thing. I mean, I appeared as his junior. He was way into his 80s by then, I think. I was about to go to the bench, but what had occurred was I was called in to be the junior to Meyerowitz because the belief was that he wouldn't be around if the matter went on appeal. In other words, he would have retired by then. Well, if you've got a matter which runs into many, many millions, if not a couple of billion, and you've got your senior counsels over 80, and the way matters carry on in South Africa, you wouldn't think, would you, that the person would still be active 3 or 4 years later. I was brought in to deal with the case. Meyerowitz argued it superbly. We won the case. And almost a decade later, about 7, 8 years later, the same client briefs Meyerowitz, "I'm now the judge." And Meyerowitz is still arguing in the court. It seemed to me just absolutely extraordinary how he defied all the odds. Trevor Emsley and I decided some years ago that if you took the books, the Administration of State book and Meyerowitz on tax, these were deserving of a doctorate. And University of Cape Town does give doctorates for published works if they make a serious and unique contribution to the specific field. And so he got an LLD as a result of that, out of those books, which was richly deserved. And he was capped accordingly. Goodness knows he must have been late into his 70s by then. And it was quite a unique occasion. But it was our way of saying, look, you know, there's nobody else like you. There's unlikely to be anybody like you in this particular field. We've never met anybody like this. And certainly from my point of view, I mean, he was my mentor. I learned more about tax through Dave Meyerowitz than I learned through anybody else. I think I learned more about law, actually. Dave was one of those people, you see, which is also what marks the great jurist from the schleppers. The difference is the ordinary lawyer, if they go and you consult them, they start looking at all these law reports here, you see, find out where the authority is. What Meyerowitz did, which is what the great lawyers do, is they say there's a logic to this. The answer must be X. Now let me go and look for some authority to support my proposition. And that's not something everybody has. And only the really great ones can do that, can understand the intrinsic logic of the system. And he did that better than almost anybody in this area, certainly better. To this extent that it's hard to say somebody's irreplaceable, but I would want to argue that nobody, with great respect to many very able lawyers in tax, has been able in any way to replace Meyerowitz.